Hello, everyone. We are live and get to share the links, and nobody knows this yet, so no one is seeing me do this intro. So I'm just going to waffle. Anyone watching this on playback, hi. Thank you. You unfortunately weren't able to join us live, but now you can hear the waffle this time. Joining me today on the huddle, we have regulars Jerry and Cindy, and Rishi is standing in for Jono. But don't worry, we have asked him to still complain about WordPress and make as many short developer jives as possible. Today we're going to be discussing things around AI overviews since SEMrush have released a large study, and obviously SIA have put out a really good study as well, so Rishi's going to touch on that. And we're also just going to be touching on another couple of articles over the past few weeks, everything from maybe touching on a little bit of DeepSeek all the way through to the web design nerd thing about how everything we know about SEO is just lies. So let's get things started on AI overview. So Sam Russell just released a study. I say just, it was probably about I say just, it was 3 months ago, but it's just started to actually get circulation and come to light. They looked at 200,000 keywords to uncover the latest trends in AI generated responses on Google. Then there's a couple of M dashes following that as to what the paragraph is. But key takeaways and stats, so low volume keywords, 82% on desktop and 76% on mobile. Mobile AIOs occurred for keywords with less than 1,000 monthly searches. It doesn't actually say what the overall search volume distribution was of a keyword set. So we don't know if that's just the data they used or that is an actual trend to take from it. Um, Primarily informational content is ranking for them. I'd say that probably justifies as well as what a lot of our experiences are. And also a low PPC ad presence. And then there's the closing takeaway of there's no ranking guarantee. Rishi, I know you've done a lot of manual reviews of AI reviews and a lot of optimization for them. You want to take the lead on this topic, sir?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've read this study, and to be honest, it just seems like a statistical analysis of what's there, right? It doesn't really tell you what you can do to get in those um, spaces because that's the value, really, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, knowing how many words show up in the AI overviews, I don't know how important that is to someone who's trying to optimize. Um, I've done manual review, especially for two specific industries where my clients are in. And I think I went through about 2,000 of these manually. And what we found was um, three very interesting bits. First thing first, um, when there's a recommendation request, i.e., when you're looking for a type of product or service, then
Mhm.
being referred to by 4 or 5 sites in a positive light, i.e., positive sentiment analysis, sites that are ranking the top 20, top 30, tends to have an impact getting into that list. Right. The
Mhm.
second thing, having qualifiers on your own content, i.e., stuff like we are the best, we are the top, or highest rated, that sort of thing, on your own site also has an impact getting into that list, which is quite interesting to know. Um, the other thing that we found that most of those results are from very heavily structured sites, i.e., people are using lists and breakdowns and proper use of all markup, that sort of thing. So if you want to be in those lists, you want your sites referred to those lists, you want to have your markup down to a T. Don't screw up and just get it right, get the right
Mhm.
phrases in the right areas on the site. Right. Um, the third tip I'd give people here would be mind the background sites. There, you can always check which sites are being used to generate those. So we basically collated all those for the top 30 keywords that we wanted to be in that space for, right?
Mhm.
And then we manually reached out to each one of the sites. We'd like to be in your list, or we'd like to be mentioned. So we start building those partnerships and relations with the sites that are being used as references. And it doesn't happen immediately. It takes days, obviously a lag time, when it processes, reprocesses that data, that sort of thing. Um, and interestingly, I've managed to get two of my clients into at least about 60% of those results where they weren't represented before.
And was it driving
And
a
so, I
lot of
mean,
traffic?
It drives quite a decent amount of traffic. But at the same time, the brand visibility is great because we've noticed that if you're mentioned up there and then you have an organic listing, your CTR improves.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's a definite positive. Um, the one thing I did, I had a theory that the using Gemini and checking that data, and that might be similar to this. It's not actually, because they're using different data sets completely.
In terms of
Using different data sets, Gemini and AIO.
And what they're using for the overseas. So like if you use like hold on, let me see if I find this notes here.
But Rishi, just clarify what you said. Who is using different data sets?
So like if you use like the Google Gemini to ask, let's say, the top 10 sites here, right? But if you then run a search in Google for the top 10 product site for, or whatever, top 10 product service, right? The data sets are completely different. They're using completely different sites
So the answer's the
collate.
same.
I would have the answers are different. That's what I mean. That basically
Okay.
they're giving you slightly different answers. I would have expected to be an overlap between Gemini and the AI overviews, because I assumed at one point that they're using something quite similar to Power Both, but obviously I was wrong there.
when you said the results aren't immediate and they kind of take time, from your observations, what's the kind of stability like when you're kind of optimizing from? Is it a process of a few days and then relatively stable, or do they do similar kind of?
It varies. It varies how quickly those other sites are crawled and how popular the term is. I'll be honest with you. For more popular terms, it happens quicker. For less popular terms, it takes a bit longer. I've seen the quickest one I had turnaround was 2 weeks. The longest one has probably taken about a month and a half.
Another question I've
We
got
can
is sorry, go on, Richard.
No, that's it. Go on.
One of the questions I've just kind of got on this is just because of the depth you've gone into this, and I know this is something that has been chatted more frequently in different sectors, is just around, have you seen structured data playing another role in this? Because there was a whole consensus within Street at first with, structured data is good for X, Y, and Z, and now obviously that big 4-hour-long deep dive video has come out, and they basically said we strip all the stuff from the page and we just take the text. And there's the whole Jono. I mean, even though he's not here, we'll touch on his article about it's just labels. Have you, anecdotally, have you seen structured data make an impact, or not all?
I mean, I haven't specifically looked into those that micro level. All I found is that the data, if it's written well in the terms of how an actual structured writing is, having the right lists and having quotes and having headings, that sort of, like when you're creating your content and you're structuring that content for ease of legibility, right? The easier that content is to read, the more it appears in that space. Because remember, you see this one thing I've said, and it's a bone of contention to a lot of SEOs nowadays. You're no longer optimizing for people, you're optimizing for bots. So the easier your content is to consume for the LLMs, the easier it's going to rank. Right? If you have a clear, this is the problem, this is the answer. This is the problem, this is the answer. If that's what your content is, it tends to appear better.
I imagine if Google were here, they would say that that's optimizing for humans too. That humans don't want to read; they just want, this is the question, this is the answer.
Well, then that's not good quality content, is it? It's like it's just spoon-fed rubbish.
Quality according to who? If that's what the user wants, then it's quality.
Well, in which case, those massive affiliate sites that they've tanked, all of those used to have their content literally written in that specific format. They were actually better than 90% of the other sites out in terms of content legibility.
I do think that now AI is much better at being more and more human. It is insanely so. I mean, one of the questions actually in the comments from Alasia is, we're talking about JSON, LD, and microdata or RDF, but I think that What we're kind of talking about here is that the content's marked up in H1s, H2s, LIs, and lists, and that kind of thing. So it's
Yeah.
actually marked up in a kind of more HTML style rather than a JSON LD style. And that I think is actually quite important, because I think historically we were all about, you know, the more that we do with JSON LD and the more we do with schema, the more we do with that kind of markup, it's going to kind of work better. But this more recent thing is we're kind of seeing that Google is really kind of prioritizing the content. And you know, when you were first sort of talking about structure, I was like, oh, I kind of disagreed with you, but you're talking about structure as in the content.
Structure, content, yeah, content mark.
And I hate to say it, but one of the things that we sort of touched on previously, and again, is, you know, the content seems to be getting fed in from two places, Reddit and listicles. And the listicles part of it is just so SEO 1999, but now it's just literally everywhere again. If you want to be featured as the best tool to do, I don't know, something, you know, find all the listicles and make sure you're on it, and it works. It really
Absolutely.
does work.
It's rampant in the service industry, in the SaaS industry. It's absolutely rampant. If you're not mentioned on 3 or 4 sites as in being in the top lists, then you have low chance of being in those results. And to be honest, even if there are some results and they're not that many top lists in your niche, go out and create them. Honestly, you'll start appearing. Just create that space for yourself. And actually, I'm doing that for one of my clients. They have some AI overviews, but they've got no major listicles in the industry. So I'm basically paying bloggers to create those listicles. Mention their competitors, I don't care. Put my client at the top.
Yep, agreed. That actually does work really, really well. I've seen this time and time and time again. And, you know, I hate to say it, but the articles where, you know, you're featuring the top 5 companies for X and you're putting yourself in there. I mean, let's be honest, every one of us has appeared on a best SEO list. And we know full well that there's one name on that list where we kind of go, who are they? And it turns out it's the author, Dan Taylor.
Yeah, but when I reached out to you then, Jerry, and we became friends. Sorry, Richie.
I haven't been on one of those lists for, I think, maybe about 10 years now. Maybe they start bribing people more.
Yeah,
right yourself again.
Yeah. I think that's the point. Like with the structured content side of things, it kind of feels then we're kind of going back to what the old and first recommendations were around featured snippets. A featured snippets like content in lists, like different things like that. I mean, was that the first or second time zero click was a phrase? I know everyone's treating zero click like it's the first coming of zero click again, but we've enjoyed this multiple times for structured snippets. But it's the same narrative for structure, clean HTML, having those lists, making it better. So I know one of the things I've always highlighted was is like going off one of Cindy's points earlier about users just want the answer. And I've been affected when Google introduced the jump links to certain parts and certain articles in searches and things like that. And I think it was like the Fraggles elements of it, or fragment jump things. A lot of the industry was like, oh, yeah, let's optimize for this. And it was a case of, well, no, what Google's actually looking at here is you've buried the purpose of that query so deep in this article, we've actually got to help people find it. Like I know we joke about like recipe sites and stuff like that who bury the list of ingredients and cooking times 500 words down after your grandma's, aunt's, sister's, cat's love for the lasagna or something. But it's that same thing.
Yeah, but that was something else too. Like the importance of breaking a page into Fraggles was about not just users and getting them to the content, but also easier processing and segmenting a page for LLM processing, most likely, right? Like there are sometimes too many topics on a page.
Yeah, and I think couple that with Google's recent quality rated guideline update, where the official title is the big PDF they churn out every now and again.
Yeah.
The fact that they've been talking about main content and beneficial purpose and value proposition for years, so I think it potentially is breaking that down even more. I mean, has anyone actually read the updates they made in January yet on that, or at least even summaries of that yet? The statistical analysis of it is it mentions generative AI 14 times now, and has gotten a little bit more black and white, I'm going to say, on whether or not they like the main content of a page to be generated by AI or not. And even to the point of, I know this is segueing slightly away from the AI stuff, but even with content structure, but it's even telling evaluators now, if you suspect that it's been generated by AI or auto-generated, then you will give it the lowest rating if you can't, even if you can't prove it or not, just if you've got a strong enough suspicion. So that's just going to lead to, in my opinion, slightly more intelligent prompting and slightly better editing and slightly different things to avoid that as a commoditized element.
Well, and FYI, some of the updated guidelines affected recipes directly, right? Where they said, like, don't do this, don't make the recipe so hard to find. And that's just this week.
Yeah, there's been a lot around that. Jerry, do you have anything you want to add on the AI overviews topic?
No, I think we're going to touch on the next one, which is talking about, you know, the click-through rates of it all as well, aren't we? Because I mean, my big rant this week, which I had kind of privately, was I did a search for some schema, basically writing some schema up for multiple products in a page, and the full answer, and I'm talking about code, I'm talking about everything, was in the AI overview, to the point where, you know, I looked at it and was like, I will never click into a page. And the social contract that we've got is definitely deteriorating. I mean, I know Jono, if he was here, would be kind of making a face at me. It's like, why can't you type that out by hand? But don't agree with him, Cindy. But basically, it's kind of a case that, you know, I found everything I needed to in the kind of the AI overview. I would never have left it. I think we are at a point now where the AI overviews is kind of, they've figured out that ChatGPT is definitely going to be killing them or going to be reducing them. And they're fighting back quite hard now, quite rapidly. And I think this is something which is going to get worse before at some point we're all going to turn around and kind of go, why are we actually producing content if no one's actually coming through for it and Google's just repurposing it?
Well, I think that goes to what Gary earlier said at a ladies' event in London. I know Rishi, Jerry, and I were in person. I'm sure, Cindy, you've seen the write-ups of it gone online. But Google's hand was almost forced by the players rushing to the market ahead of them. So they had to go with a product which, and I'm completely paraphrasing Gary here, for all legal and liability purposes, this is paraphrased, but they almost were forced to go with what they had, in what form of stability they had, in order to then play catch up and force it. So, yeah, but the AI stuff is quite interesting. I don't know if you've seen the Google Learn About in labs as well. That is a phenomenal little research tool, and that could be, in my opinion, probably more impactful than AI overviews for most internet users who just want topic research.
But the net, and I think the big, you know, strategy takeaway that I think came out of that London event, from what I read, I wasn't there, was the idea of creating unique content, right? Like, if you're just creating the same thing that the AI could create, then you're not going to get any kind of credit, and you're not going to be pulled into the AI overview, which is interesting because for years that was actually the SEO strategy. You would look at what was in the featured snippet and you would basically edit that a little bit and respond to the query or whatever on your own page with a similar version of whatever featured snippet was ranking. Right now it's the opposite, and they're saying, if you're not adding something new to the conversation, we don't care because we already know this. And this is something that's gone on for a long time with Google. Like, the more Google kind of crawls and knows, the more they consider common knowledge. So back in the early days of featured snippets and direct answers and stuff like that, if you asked how old is a 5-year-old cat in human years, it would potentially tell you, but it would always give a citation. And then the evolution was like, we don't, like, this is just known. People know this. And it's like, well, vets know that, but like maybe credit a vet or a, like, you know, science body of some sort. But more and more is considered common knowledge now, not worthy of citation. And then that gets us to here where, like, everything in an AI overview, Google might claim is common enough knowledge. And if it's not common knowledge, that's when it gets a link or a citation.
What Gary said, and Jerry, Rishi, do correct me if I'm remembering this wrong, it was plausible originality. because he spoke about the originality. You needed like your own point of view and something to differentiate. But then he also went on to give an example of, I think it was a travel blog that got hit by one of the updates who had been kicking off and complaining. And I think on one of their posts they had something like they'd reviewed a restaurant in Fiji, and Gary kind of said like, well, you've also reviewed a load of other stuff. This is the only thing you've actually reviewed that's in Fiji. So the cost of going to Fiji for you to review one restaurant to come back, it doesn't make any sense. And the level of content being put out wasn't plausible. But that also then aligns with what the quality rated guidelines are saying now as well, because they're talking about they're using terminology like shows little to no effort, shows no originality, shows no unique value proposition. But then they do contradict themselves, because then they also have a bit, especially around YMYL topics, of does not align with consensus. And that's something that Randy back in 2016, he did a Whiteboard Friday where he spoke about granola bars. And he did about being, I can never remember what it's called, but if you just Google Fishkin granola bars Whiteboard Friday, you'll find it. And I think that's a really good breakdown of it from like 9 years ago. But
what's interesting is that they kind of keep changing their mind a little bit, but then also what they want right now with originality goes against kind of human nature a little bit. Because if I haven't even been there, but I know that there's this very trendy place called Voodoo Donuts in Las Vegas, and like their donuts are incredible and crazy and like every flavor you can imagine, blah blah blah. And so all the food bloggers have to make the pilgrimage to go try the donuts and write up the donuts, but there are a couple like favorites that everyone tries, and because they're so famous, everyone writes up the same donuts and everyone jumps on the same trend. Same with like fashion TikTokers and whatever. Something goes viral, everyone reviews the same thing. And so there's not a lot of originality being added. Or if it is, it's so nuanced. Like you're the one person who didn't like that donut or something like that. So like human nature would say like, oh, jump on the bandwagon and try this out, write it up. But Google's like, okay, like maybe a little bit jump on the bandwagon, but like don't write up that exact same donut, or like write it differently or have a different opinion or something like that.
So I mean, to me, the way I'd try to approach, if I was that, I don't know, say that's a US travel blogger who's done that, they're a foodie blogger, I would approach that problem with what assumptions I've got now is right. I might review the same donuts, but I'm going to take imagery myself. I might take a selfie with a donut, so I'm going to create a unique imagery which can't be replicated. There's only so many words you can use to describe a donut. Let's just admit that without going completely stupid and thesaurusy. But if I travel to Las Vegas to try those donuts, I will review other stuff in Las Vegas around the same time period. I'll take pictures around the same time period, so they've got the same method. I've got a metadata around it, so I'm creating a plausible notability and originality. But I've been to Las Vegas, I reviewed this donut. I have some uniqueness around the main content, because main content can be imagery as well. But also, when you look at this, it's like, oh, I've clearly been there. I've linked to TikToks, I've linked to tweets, I've location tagged things. Like, I've not just been sent a picture of a donut by somebody over and sent it by Gmail and I don't know, an admin feed to publish it with a link or something like that.
You know, my view on the whole thing is the whole thing varies based on niche and commercial interest to Google, right? If you, for example, Google best shoes for walking, I've had affiliate sites in that space that used to absolutely dominate, right? Literally dominate that space. Now it just looks like a bunch of ads and then an e-commerce landing page and then a handful of high authority sites, including Reddit, in that space. But if you click on the Forbes article, which I think is number 1 organic result there, it's best walking shoes for women, first of all. So it's not even like a generic best shoes for walking, it's specifically for women. And you click on that page is a complete copy of the affiliate page that I had. Literally the structure, the CTRs, the way the image is brought up, the way you click to the different affiliate types. Literally, there's no difference to that site to what I would have had on my affiliate site, right? Literally nothing. So just because they're saying, well, it's a real person that has done that review, and well, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, but Google has no way of verifying, really.
There's no marker there. Yeah, there's no marker there to prove. I would trust people like Outdoor Gear Lab because they do these tests, right? And they physically show you those tests. But Forbes, honestly, now if you change that query and type in picking shoes for walking, you'll get you'll get none of the e-commerce stuff. You'll get organic results. And you'll get Harvard tips for walking shoes, which is such a lightweight rubbish article from 2022. I mean, my affiliate sites had a much better. It had nearly 200 tips for walking because it was walking in the park, walking in the forest, walking on gravel. It was broken down by the different types of walking that people would do for health reasons. But those sites have all been obliterated.
I mean,
And
I
that was a
hear
much
that,
better.
Rishi, and it makes me cringe. Like that you wrote that much content about like good shoes for walking on gravel.
Well, there's a big difference. There actually is a big difference walking on the pavement versus walking on grass.
Mm.
For different people, different arch types. It's actually massive science. We did a ton of research on this first. We spoke to a lot of podiatrists and stuff as well to put that content together.
Okay.
And literally it was like tips for walking, but how you should be walking depending on your gait, your weight. It all changes. People don't realize.
And then
But this
that
is the level of research that affiliates at that point used to do. This wasn't just burn and churn content. This was content that we spent a lot of time doing research on.
and that was helping sell shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Help shoes, but also helping sell the right shoes to people.
I can understand that. I mean, because I completely agree with Rishi. I mean, I get shin splints if I run on concrete. I can run on grass all day because it's a soft
Yeah.
thing. But if I run on a pavement, after about a kilometre,
Then
my
bang
shins,
your knees.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
shins
mean,
and knees. Shins and knees.
yeah,
And
I'm the wrong side
let's
of
say
it.
if you're a diabetic, you shouldn't be walking on pavements. You should be walking mostly on grass because and you should be having special shoes that are capped because diabetics tend to hurt their toes quite easily and not realize the bleed, and that bleeding can carry on because it doesn't stop very easily. So you can get sepsis. So there's tons of research we've done on this. So you can see I'm like a subject matter expert on that because I actually physically wrote that content myself.
And Judith is in the comments backing you up. I'm just not
Yeah,
sure if people are. I'm not sure if that's how people shop for shoes.
Okay.
That's how they should be shopping for shoes.
Okay,
That's the
Cindy,
fact.
Cindy, if you searched for best shoes for walking, what would you want the results to look like? What do you think Google should display?
I would not like. I would want it to have shoes, not paragraphs.
I mean, I agree with what Rishi said. Because I mean, I've gone on that Harvard link he said about, and like, apart from the fact that the author has she was a medical writer and editor at Health News, and which was affiliated with New England Journal of Medicine. The actual main content, I guess, for Hook is basically like, stop late in the day, choose socks first, look for a low heel, take a test walk. And I'm like, well, okay, I now know something about socks, but
Yeah.
this still doesn't actually help me choose a shoe.
And also, like, did we need a blog post for those? Like, test them out? Okay.
I don't know.
But this what I mean.
I shop a lot and I buy a lot of shoes, and these are queries I've never done.
Cindy, I promise you, I've got more shoes than you.
Well,
I
sneakers,
swear to God, I've got
imagine,
more
but
shoes. Or sneakers, yeah. Well, yeah. I have probably about
I've
175
definitely got the
pairs.
least amount of shoes here. But the point is that, you know, as a user who kind of goes, I buy one pair of shoes a year, I want to make sure these shoes are good. What shoes should I want? I want a little bit of guidance. I want a little bit of flow. But do you know what? I'll probably be clicking into the videos now. I mean, going back to what we were saying about is the fact that I'm actually finding video content, TikTok, or I know, Cindy, you're going to be banned soon. But for the rest of us who live in countries where we can still watch TikToks, I find that a lot of these videos are actually pretty awesome. And my advice to any marketer is, you know, basically, if you've got a product where a short 3-minute, 2-minute video works, TikTok is going to be is already very, very, very effective, particularly for mobile browsers.
Totally agree. Any kind of short form video. And I think that's where you can compete directly with AI overviews, because like if an AI overview says take a test walk and choose low heels, to which I would say, duh, like the video is going to give you more.
Yeah, but it's also down to your level of
ideal.
consumption, right? It's like video is great, but I'm not going to watch a 30-minute video explain to me how to buy shoes. But if I had a structured piece of content, yeah, well, even if it's 3 minutes, right? But 3 minutes would not tell me everything I need to know about buying the right shoes. Honestly, it will not.
Okay.
Knowing this subject inside out. But whereas if I had a piece of content that actually is structured and has deep links in there, it's like, oh, people with diabetes, click. Yes, that takes me there. You can't do that on a piece of video content. It's actually taking you back to misinformation, the amount of misinformation out there on these videos as well. Because remember, these guys, a lot of TikTok affiliates have no ethics at all or control. You know the amount of fake TikToks out there.
I'm very aware of the fact there's a lot of content out there written by one guy who is a female dating expert, a dentist, a HR consultant, and various other things. Yeah. I've seen all of his LinkedIn profiles and his IMDb page and various other things. Yeah. You know, I'm very impressed by the sheer amount of links that he's built by having all these different personas, and also the amount of content is written with all these different personas. You know, my point is that, you know, you're right. There is a lot of black hat kind of dodgy stuff out there, but you know, going back to what I was saying, you know, I think that a starting point of a short video gets me to kind of going to where I want to be, and then maybe I'll start kind of going, oh, I need to find out more about diabetic shoes, or the fact I've got high arches, or the fact that I've got, you know, whatever I've got. But yeah,
but I think what you're saying all lends itself to like the idea of how we got here, which is talking about structure and AI overviews. And I do think, like, let's assume I'm wrong. I'm happy to assume that. The breakdown of walking on grass, walking on pavement, walking on gravel, and putting in proper, you know, headings and subheadings and bullets and stuff like that, like having a well-formatted article and a well-formatted page is going to help Google and help get you into the AI overview, which
so this is what I was saying earlier. This is what I actually started out saying. It depends on their commercial need, right? If their commercial need is I can show products and just literally start throwing my content, you'll not have AI overviews there at all. So these shoes, these physical product types, you're not going to see them.
I've just done about 10 different searches for best shoes for walking on different devices and all sorts of bits and pieces. I'm going to be retargeted for the next week with shoes.
It's that's what I mean. Targeted constantly for the. Are you looking to improve your SEO rankings with Plinky Plunk? Reason about. Is no one else?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I was just making a reference to a tool provider right now, which is going so hard on YouTube advertising that I'm just actually now put off them. I also sorry, go on, Rishi.
To be honest, one good way to start getting into these spaces in organic results is making sure you got well-defined and structured YouTube video as well. I'm seeing a lot more YouTube video in spaces where traditionally they've just not been in. And it looks like they're trying to increase the diversity of results, and one of the diversity seems to be bringing in more YouTube content.
Yeah, but I think there's an interesting transition here to something else that we were going to talk about, which is the Google and Alphabet earnings being down and the kind of corresponding prediction that when Google needs to recoup, when they've had a bad earnings call and a bad earnings report, they increase the ads and increase driving traffic to YouTube, shopping, and anything they can with ads or links that generate new search results that have new ads. You guys, that's kind of how I always look at it. When they need to make money, they just twist a dial to kind of up the monetization, like the in-house monetization. Is that
actually? I wish I could do a correlation study on this, but I I've noticed something on the other end of that spectrum is you see a lot more Google PPC representatives reaching out to clients when they have to make earnings calls. And
I
some
have
of the advice they give you are terrible. Like it's just terrible. Gordon, who runs the PPC agency ClickBoost, was just talking about how one of his clients was approached by a Google Ads rep saying, "Oh, we'll optimize it," and when he was spending 100 a month, all of a sudden he's spending 1,500 a month, and literally just like he looked at the whole campaign was just terrible.
Rishi, I've been hearing from a lot of chatter that basically people working on paid accounts are refusing to answer their phone to unknown numbers because Google are calling them 3 or 4 times a week.
Consistently, yeah. So that's why I think the earnings calls. I think that's one of the tactics that they use to make up that revenue.
Well, have you seen the? No, sorry, go on, Rishi.
Yeah, they hammer small businesses terribly. I mean, I've seen, and you know, the other thing that they've done is they've loosened the taps on the phrase match terminology. So when you traditionally used to have phrase match, it's something that's a very close match. If you look at your phrase match list, they'll even include competitor names these days. I mean, there's no way that's a phrase match.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I literally, the first thing I do every week is go in and check that phrase match and actually see the system that triggered the clicks and start adding negatives. I have more negatives on my clients' accounts than I've got positive keywords. Honestly, this doing anything to just get the extra couple of CPCs.
I was about to make a Tinder joke.
It's a scam.
Yeah. Rishi, I think that you're absolutely right. The sheer amount of bad advice and the bad practice, for want of a better word, from Google at the moment and the paid side of it. And it is very much that, you know, if clicks are down in organic, which we kind of know they are, then, you know, people are kind of going, we need to regain it. We'll spend more on paid. And then paid is actually performing. I mean, we are finding that companies are not actually optimizing as well as they used to in paid because they literally can't. The controls that they used to have are being taken away from them. You know, I was having a conversation with a paid agency a couple of days ago, and they were like, yeah, we basically don't have the same control that we used to. We have to trust Google will do well. And that's fine when Google does do well, but frequently Google will it'll just go really badly for a while, and we have no real insight and control as much as we used to have.
You have the control. It's harder to find it.
Sorry, I'll rephrase it.
A whole bunch of tools.
It's more. They still have it, but it's just diminishing.
It's a lot more aggressive the way they do things. I mean, they're almost using dark patterns to force you to spend more, right? So, for example, you used to be able to automatically go and change geographic slots. They've moved that into a completely different area, which is not intuitive. So you have to actually look for it. And when you go to the help content, that's not updated. That doesn't get updated very often. So it's always referencing old articles and old links, right? So you've got to go around and dig and look for this shit. They don't tell you that in Performance Max that you can't put negatives. Now they've just introduced negative keywords. But when you look at Performance Max keywords, that was just literally a dark hole, right?
Yeah.
The first thing they tell local businesses to start a smart ad campaign. Those smart ad campaigns are just complete burn money for small businesses.
Yeah, agreed.
But you have control. You just have to just be really, really nailed down and literally hammer at it every day. I mean, I spend some clients that would have historically spent maybe a day a month working on the account. I'm spending probably at least 2 hours a day tweaking, consistently refining, because Google just keeps throwing shit at it.
But it also means that if this is your job or what your company does, then you're less profitable. If you're having, if
absolutely.
You know, the controls exist, but they're harder to find and harder to use, then people are going to get lazy and Google's just going to get more money. Like it's kind of like, you know,
exactly that. I had a client last year that, you know, I kept telling him, listen, your agency is not checking your negative keywords. They're consistently showing good ROI. But I said, I split the ROI and say your brand is 90% of your ROI. All your generics are negative because actually they're costing you way too much. If you killed all your generics and just ran your brand ads, right, you're still going to probably make more profit than you do with some of these generics.
Yeah.
Right? But they're like, no, this agency is a Google approved agency and Google have checked their account and they're happy with it. Of course, they're fucking happy with it. You're spending 15 grand a month on keywords that don't convert. That's, over like £170,000 a year on keywords. They've done nothing for your business, literally, because it's being hidden into your branded ROI.
I'm
And
trying
because
to
you've got
find.
Google stamp of approval.
So I'm trying to find the actual things. This morning when I logged on to LinkedIn, and I don't know, this is just how wonderful and crap LinkedIn is. Someone had taken a screenshot on their phone of an email that was sent to them, but also CCing the client email as well. So it was Google Ads team. And it was basically, oh, yeah, there's loads of things you can do which are wrong, and there was just lies in it. But because they put the client in, it was just this person was calling them out. I'm really trying hard to find it to actually link to it, give a hat to the source. If anyone can remember what this is or seen it and can link to me, I'll share it at some point. But I think it is that kind of, and I agree with Richard. I'd love to see the correlation of when they have that bad earnings or they have that bad announcement, this activity.
And you know what? The other thing they started doing, which I think is absolutely so cheeky, I set up this account for a client. There's no client email in the account whatsoever. I've got full access to the brand, everything. I kept ignoring that Google support guy. They went and reached out to the client direct, saying, we've been trying to organize a call with your PPC agency, and they're not listening because we're trying to help you improve your account. And obviously what your client hears is, this guy doesn't give shit about my brand.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of chatter about that, basically, where people are saying, especially as a lot of the time, it's sometimes like one company, like there is not a PPC agency, it's part of a company. I won't mention brands, but I've seen brands kind of talking about this for a while now. It really is bad that Google are behaving like this, and as you say, it's almost like the world's one of the richest companies in the world is desperately trying to figure out how to make a bit more money. I mean, it reminds us of a cartoon villain.
Well, you know what I equate the Google PPC team to? A boiler room. You know those boiler rooms, the internet marketing boiler rooms? Give me a credit card and I'll make your life great.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same tactic and schemes that they use, but they have a big brand name behind them.
Yeah.
But that's what they are. Take your business card and basically screw you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do we want to segue onto the earnings call potentially? Because I know that's something you wanted to bring up, Cindy, and we've just done 42 minutes of.
Well, that was I was trying to bring it in of like the earnings are down. This is why, this is why we're seeing, or we should expect to see more aggressive Google behavior algorithmically and in showing any kind of paid stuff, right? I don't have much more to add except that, I don't know, AI is expensive and Google's trying to win the AI battle. And there's a lot of people thinking that YouTube is doing a much heavier lift in the overall earnings than search, than people expect. So YouTube success is covering up some kind of losses in other parts of the company. That's what I've heard speculation about.
I do find it's interesting on the YouTube thing, and I will go back to that. I know I joked by earlier about like you chased constantly by SEO companies and stuff. I still find it funny that like there's an element of the data privacy concerns and what companies know about you, but it's either Google not caring or they just can't make the dot. But I can be logged in on a tool via Google login and have YouTube open on the same profile, logged in with the same Chrome profile, and I'm still being shown ads for that tool as if I'm not logged into it on the tab next to it. So it's like either Google doesn't care that I'm already a customer or we can't make that connection. So when we start talking about this is something that Jerry said in a much earlier episode when he's spawning, I think SmartFridge has 913 partners it shares data with or something. But do we have the whole hoo-ha and concern is we don't even understand what they're actually capable of, and we'll probably give them too much credit in some instances.
We are very aware of the fact that, as we talked about literally earlier on this call, is the fact that Google doesn't talk to each other. You know, the team at YouTube doesn't talk to the team over here. The ads teams in one section don't talk to another. You know, if you find out about all like the different teams who aren't actually communicating with each other, it's an absolute mess at Google in some ways because of the siloed approach. You know, and you know, you often find out that when you're talking to somebody at Google, they don't know half of what's going on in another part of it, which is kind of normal in huge enterprises like that. It's not something which is a Google problem. It's a big enterprise problem. So it sounds like I'm saying Google's bad. It's just, you know, like take Meta, for instance. I'm sure half the people working on Facebook don't know about the VR products, and the people working on the VR products don't know about Instagram, and the Instagram people don't know about whatever.
Marketplace. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. There's so much going on in one company, and you often find out that people are clueless about how one product interacts with another product and so on and so forth. I mean, it's kind of, but that is what Google is like at the moment, and I think that's the nature of being a huge company. It's just with all of them being pressured to make more money and support each other, it is a dog eat dog world. I mean, the fact that Microsoft had just turned around to each other and said, you know, the lowest performing people are going to be out and we're going to replace them with higher performing people. It's the kind of culture where people will basically be more guarded, more siloed, rather than more collaborative.
But that was a Microsoft policy for a long time, wasn't it? To cut the bottom 20%. They would take the every year they would do annual assessments and rate everyone. And if you were in the bottom 20%, you lost your job.
Oh, is that an old policy? I thought it was new. Maybe it's just hit the news again somehow.
Yeah, it's quite an old policy. It's a very old policy. It's been there for very many years. But that review also comes from it's not based on your performance. It's based on your, it wasn't. It was based on how people around you rate you.
Yeah, 360.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. We know it's a massive company, and we're talking about Google, but it's not Google. It's ABC, right? And they have a lot more under their ownership than just Google. If we think about it, they've got investments in tons of other companies. They own huge stock in a company called Snowflake, which they started divesting recently. Snowflake's had a bad year, so that also impacts Google's share earnings. So everything that Google has its fingers in, if those things don't do well, obviously overall the company itself will be losing out, right? So it's part and parcel. Google itself, Google Ads, I don't think AI is costing them as much money as we believe it is. I think their problem is they could make their AI to a lot better. The problem they have is to balance it between getting the right mix of commercial intent out of the way, right? And that's why I don't think AI overviews has been launched across every query type. That's why it's very limited, and that's why I think the SEMrush methodology, one of the things they should have looked at is what the intent of the keyword and what sort of what service industry it was in. Was it in a service industry or was it retail? Because in retail, I'm pretty sure there's a huge amount of AI overviews don't come up because they're huge ad blocks and the whole turning of Google search page into a landing page. But I've said this from the day Google introduced OneBox, and this was, I think I wrote in 2010, 2013. I said Google OneBox is the starting of the death of SEO. Yeah.
I'm
and
just looking.
I highlighted 7 or 8 examples within that. And these are things spaces that Google will completely kill. And I wasn't wrong. I talked about, time trackers. I talked about credit card comparison. I talked about all those, and literally every single one of those things have come to pass. And literally, this is just the next level where Google is basically going to be integrated straight into the browser. People are not looking for sites or elements. They're looking for products, and you're going to be served the product feeds. You're basically going to be giving your product feed straight into Google for every single business. And the only reason you'll be using Google is to look for services.
I had to say it, but the feeds are going to be literally 90% of a lot of the kind of core marketing that we're going to be doing.
Yeah. And to be honest, feed management, if you're trying to get yourself away from SEO and learn something new, get into feed management and product optimization. That's going to be massive.
Yeah.
Product schema, getting all that right. It's a very complicated thing, and there are very few tools and companies out there. So literally, the knowledge is limited. So you can get a jump on it, and all this stuff can be used for paid search, organic search, can be used across different browsers, can be used across different social media platforms. So yeah, that's a new industry that's going to be where value is going to be built.
So do you guys think Google's going to have to do layoffs this year? Like again, are we going to hear more announcements? Because there were some announcements of layoffs this week from big companies like Salesforce and what was the other one? The job one, Monday. I think.
I know what you mean. Will they have to, or will they? That's two questions. I hate to say it, but none of these companies with super rich bosses who can basically afford to pay everybody in the world kind of X amount of money. I'm sorry, I'm sounding a bit too left wing here, but no, they don't have to. Will they is a question, because, you know, it's one of those things where these companies, they don't seem to kind of, they seem to have an attitude where it's almost like profit is the most important thing, and often at the expense of the user. And that's what effectively kills the company long term. Again, sounding a bit left wing, sorry. But basically, we know this time and time again, that the reason that a lot of the companies that have died in the past have died is because the user experiences as disintegrated against the actual profit margin, and as a direct result of that, you know, we literally stop using them. You know, I'm trying to think of examples here, but, you know, we can all think of examples like Yahoo and companies like that, which, you know, very much turned into advertising spaces rather than actual good quality results.
I mean, look, my gut or my biggest gripe with companies such as Facebook and Google has been in terms of in years of booms when they're doing really, really well and they're making tons and tons of profit. They overhire, and they overhire at very high prices, ridiculously stupid prices, and they completely hurt the whole industry, and, you know, increase price ranges for everywhere for, you know, completely unskilled staff. And then when they have to get rid of these people are unhireable because they've learned bad working practices from these two big companies. Because, do you know what? Some of their jobs were so basic, but they were being paid big bucks for it. So their expectations are ridiculous. So they make them unhireable for a bunch of years, right? So if they have to make cuts, it's not about firing. It should be about trimming salaries where they're over fattened. And there are still some big fat salaries out there in these industries where realistically they do not deserve them at all. I mean, I come across at least two to three times a year a potential client or a client where I say, "Oh my God, how are you earning that much money in your company? You haven't got a clue what you're doing." And all due respect, you know, this is a fact. We come across these people within our client industries, and they're paid so well, but they haven't got a clue what they're doing. Yeah, I had a digital marketer at a company that I was pitching to, and I asked him, "Do you have Google Search Console set up?" He's like, "No, why would we need that?" And he's the head of digital. The guy was earning 60,000. He's asking me why you need Google Search Console. And I'm pitching for an SEO gig. And that said to me straight away, I can't work with these guys.
I think by the same token, this would be a complete opposite end of that spectrum as well, because you can have someone who's in a business but who isn't being challenged and probably isn't being paid to a level. Like I've spoken to businesses who have had someone in like with no headroom to grow. Like in my opinion, you can't be ahead of anything if you're the only person in that department in the business. You are the thing. You're not the head of a department. But they've been there 8-9 years. And because that company's done things on the cheap and had regular static salary for years, they also expect the external world to be cheap as well and just do the chop change mentality. Like, by that flag, that's usually the inverse flag of like someone will go, "Oh, I had an agency for 5 to 6 months, wasn't seeing silver bullets. I then hired someone for 3-4 months, I'm not yet seeing the silver bullet. Am I doing this right? And I'm like, well, yeah, you're judging someone running the length of a marathon after they've only taken the first few steps, and you need someone to actually get embedded in and do something. And that isn't to say that SEO needs to take a long time, but if your expectation doesn't align with the amount of investment you're willing to put into it, but then, like, to your point as well, Rashid, by the other end of the spectrum, if someone isn't challenged or isn't in an environment where they can have that challenge and progression, then you end up with major corporations without GSC set up, and then wondering why we're not ranking or setting up.
Well, and so circling back though, so there may or may not be Google layoffs coming up, but we know that in our industry there have been layoffs, right? And that came up in the chat. People are losing their jobs because with the problems with click-through that we're seeing, like, there's less money to be made, right? At least from traditional SEO. So the idea to get into feed management, Merchant Center, get into YouTube optimization, TikTok optimization, stuff like that, finding different things to SEO other than Google, and or being much more creative and unique in the content that's being created and optimized, it seems like the path forward.
So to quote Cindy, SEO is dead.
I never said that. I don't think I ever said it.
No, but I agree with you. Not that SEO is dead, but that, you know, we need to make sure that we're technical marketers, that we understand how the infrastructure is put together, how the SERPs are made up, and how our content is being spread, marketed, shared, everything. And I think this is kind of a weakness of old school SEO, is the fact that we kind of go, we'll do title tags and meta descriptions and we'll buy some links, and that's how it's going to work. And, you know, SEO is only dead if it doesn't evolve. And I'm very much of the guy that kind of goes, maybe we shouldn't call it SEO, but it's not going to die. It's just an evolutionary thing. And, you know, the people in this call podcast, what is this recording?
Podcast.
Okay. People with nothing else to do on a Friday night or afternoon or morning, depending on
Morning.
Good morning. Anyway, basically, us four, we are kind of nerdy enough that we're going to go, actually, we're going to take advantage of the opportunities that come along. And that is why you see me recording TikToks all the time.
Well, so there's an interesting thing too, to go back to what we were talking about it earlier in the podcast, or what I'm obsessed with. Yes. Yeah. What I'm really interested in right now, where I've gone down a rabbit hole, is the impact of influencer marketing. And so what I had said earlier is, like, you know, being original is what the algorithm is looking for, but human nature is kind of more of a bandwagon thing. And I think that's true to an extent, but then there's the idea that the influencer marketing stuff can create search demand if it hits a certain critical mass. So something that's gone super duper viral, like this year at Christmas, the Stanley mugs, I don't know, were a big deal in the US for a certain, you know, segment of the population. And Stanley's a company that's been around for a very, very, very long time and was never trendy. My dad had Stanley stuff in his his camping and hunting gear. Like, it's been around, but now it's trendy, right? And so that's kind of a different way of thinking about it, is like, breaking things down into marketing 101. Are we creating demand and driving searches, or are we responding to searches that already exist, right? So which part are we doing? And if you're on the influencer side, you're creating demand, right? And awareness and generating potentially new keywords, right? That didn't exist before, or that didn't have the volume that you needed, and then responding to them wherever those searches are. And I think the other thing that constantly plagues me when I read the reports that we're seeing about AI overviews is, I think that they're still using a lot of like old keyword lists that don't represent how people search now. Yeah.
I think a few people have started saying this recently. It's moving away from the keyword to key phrase. I think that's the terminology that people are wanting to run with. But I see like to your point, Joe, we probably shouldn't call it SEO anymore. I actually kind of like how a lot of the SEO industry is waking up to the fact that, oh, we're actually a marketing channel. We can look at marketing and we can do stuff which isn't just a checklist on a tool provider's blog and stuff like that.
See, for
I
ages,
say this at a leaders. I said this at a leaders a meetup, right? That if you're looking at yourself as an SEO, you're doing yourself as disservice. You're a marketer, so make sure you broaden your horizons. You only work on, yes, at the moment you're working on a small part of the marketing mix, but start learning the full marketing mix. If you want any long-term future stability, yes, be a specialist in SEO, but increase your knowledge around other marketing mixes like tools, assets, and strategies and processes. Right? I mean, I've done the full marketing mix, right down to doing print and leafletting, all the way down to building this million spam sites. Right? So you've got to learn other things as well. No one's going to give you a golden star for being I'm a hardcore SEO and that's all I do. No one's going to give you a gold star for that.
No, and I think that's where part of the. I mean, there's two sides to that. I think as an industry, we probably haven't done enough to, when new people have come into the industry, actually made them aware that there is more to this than just he's part of a marketing mix, he's part of a channel, there's multiple things going on. We've just kind of brought people in and kind of gone, right, you were here to learn SEO, you will do SEO because we've commoditized SEO and we will sell it, and they're going to struggle, they're going to have to pivot the hardest into learning this because may not have come from business backgrounds, or this SEO might have been their first interaction. They've not gone through the old school stuff of like, yeah, I did direct marketing, I did blooming physical stuff and out home stuff. They haven't had that background because of how digital's taken over and been refocused. But it's getting past that almost to a point, and I've completely lost my train. Just
you're basically very old, and you've done a lot of different jobs, and you know that has impacted your ability to do progressive marketing.
No, the point where Rishi said I've just gone. My brain is just. Yeah.
It's Friday evening.
You should try drinking more Prime. Prime is the thing that will help you because I've heard that is very cool and trendy.
Prime?
It's a drink made by two YouTubers, and like it was banned in schools because it was that popular. Kids were taking it in around being up.
It was also an energy drink at one point, but basically it was so hard to get. It was 15 quid a bottle, but as a influencer example, that's the one which makes me kind of go, that was insane. When a YouTuber went, this is a really cool drink, and everybody went, I need to buy it. And then shops were selling it for like 12, 15 pounds a bottle for a small can kind of thing of a drink, or it's a small bottle thing. And I'm like kind of going, even my kids were after it. And I'm like, no.
Wasn't it the YouTuber, the brother of a YouTuber who does rigged boxing matches?
Yeah, that's it. John Paul. Or what's it?
John Paul.
Jake Paul?
Jake Paul.
Yeah.
One balls, yeah.
One of those things. Yeah, I mean, he was banned from Japan at one point for the reason was stupid. I remember.
Yeah, I remember.
But you know, this whole the whole influencer thing. I mean, Cindy, you're right. I mean, you can, if you want to get into that space, you can be very smart about it. But you're going to have to be very, very clever as to how you do it, because there are some spammers out there who are doing it so well. They're creating fake influencers. Basically, they'll create profiles of these people, and like, you know, the one that Jerry mentioned, he's a guy, but there's actually an equivalent lady who talks about all these product women, and literally she'll say, oh, I was a Victoria's Secret model, these are the 5 things they used to tell us to do. Oh, you should wash your face early in the morning with I don't know, cucumber water, right? And then she'll mention 4 or 5 things that sound very plausible, so I call it 4 truths and a lie, right? So like they'll say 4 things that actually make sense to the general person, right? And then they'll mention, and they should absolutely tell us, take this product twice a day. It's to really help us with the cholesterol intake. So it will be a named product.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you listen to, 4 things, and these sound all reasonable. And then this product, but shh, don't tell anyone. And she got like 70,000 views, 80,000 views, and people are spreading it around. And
Yeah.
that false truths and a lie, these are not real influencers; they make them up. But on
Yep.
the other hand, there are real influencers that you can use, like, but the space that these influencers are being completely burned on is the crypto.
But wait, let's pause on the influences are made up, because crypto is a whole different thing. But the influencers are made up, and the shortage/demand problem is potentially also being made up. A false shortage drives more, drives a frenzy, which drives more search volume, which drives more influencers to show off, to say, I got it, and here's my video. It's a different kind of flywheel.
There's a product. I mean, I've got 2 people this week recommended to me. Oh, Shilajit, you should take it, right? Shilajit is basically old crap from centuries ago that the people collect, and then they eat it. I mean, there's no real reason to eat, but it's all come from TikTok, right? But this product has existed in India for hundreds of years, right? But all of a sudden, loads of TikTok, and then suddenly, as you say, emerging search volume for that product.
So I haven't got it here, but I've got 6 tubs of various mushroom side effect products and everything, and I'm like, one of these will help me with my problems.
Are you microdosing?
No, it's the ashwagandhas and the lion's manes.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Ashwagandha and Shilajit, and they're all the same. All the same.
You're telling me I've spent a ton of money on absolute crap. I won't be happy.
Yeah, but did you get it from Holland Barrett in a penny sale?
Did you buy it on AliExpress? Because there was already crap.
In my case, not ashwagandha.
No, you got it from TikTok shop, which is even worse.
Maybe.
But yeah, then you take the whole equation down to the crypto side of thing, and that's where you really see influencer. If I know it's not about understanding crypto, this is actually understanding how crypto people market. These guys are geniuses, right? Like when I say genius marketers, I mean it's insane. That Hawk Tour girl, who went viral?
Yeah.
Anyone know it?
Yeah. Is she in trouble now for short?
They did a Hawk Tour. Yeah. Because she crypto bros got hold of her, launched Hawk Tour coin, and then did a rug pull literally within hours of launching. Right? And because she'd gone so viral, I mean, I don't even know how much money it was, but it was ridiculous amounts. But she's the one that's the face of it, and she's dead. Right? She's gone. She's going to go to jail.
I feel like she was a bit not abused. That's not the right word for it, but used and kind of exploited.
Yeah, absolutely exploited, absolutely. But that's what these guys do, right? And they and the thing is, the crypto bros actually they've got networks, so they push each other's crypto. So they do network marketing well, right? Hate them for whatever they are good, solid marketers, right? They know how to pull things.
I mean, we all remember when Musk tweeted something along the lines of "Don't buy Bitcoin," and the price of Bitcoin dropped by 20%.
This is it, the fanatics, right?
Yeah, it's scary, the world out there in that way.
So I'm just bringing up some numbers. So I'm just bringing up some numbers on Hawk Coin, as it was called. It hit a $490 million market cap shortly after it was launched.
Imagine.
Yeah. Before losing 95% of its value within hours. It has been described by key opinion leaders as a pump and dump, where people behind the coin hype up its price before launch, sell for profit, then dump it off. It's currently worth pennies on the dollar, which is interesting.
Can you still buy it? Are people still searching for it?
I mean, I've just done a search
for it, but for a different reason.
Yeah, because it's interesting what will happen there. Because like Rishi said, she probably will go to jail. The BBC article I'm actually reading on this is giving now. So in 2021, Kim Kardashian was fined $1.26 million by US regulators after she failed to disclose she'd been paid to post an advert for a cryptocurrency scheme called Ethereum Max. So just by that's one advert, if you've been the face of effectively a big crypto Ponzi scheme, then that's probably lock away.
But that's nothing, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a 490 million market cap. If they did a rug pull and managed to get 20% of that, not even 60, 70, 80, 20% of that, right? And they had to pay a 2 million fine to the FTC. FTC is never fined much more than that, right? It's fine. I'll pay that fine all day long. But if you guys really want to look at these, how that crypto marketing and how the rug pulls in this work, there's a guy on YouTube called CoffeeZilla who actually was who was actually one of the guys that was pulling up the Hawk Tour coin. He was live on chat with them and he was calling them out, right? But CoffeeZilla is amazing. You should watch some of his videos.
He's actually the key opinion leader in this BBC article they've gone to. He's described it as a pump and dump.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, the amount of research he does, and he's called out Jake Paul. He's called out literally everyone out there. He knows his stuff, and I watch a lot of his videos because you understand the intricacies of the marketing in that space. But the crypto market space is insane. It's like insane. Like think about it. Hawk Tour coin, 490 million market cap.
But so how do we bring this back
startup business have you ever heard of that?
I don't know. All I know is when I put this through Opus and I get shorts, I've just got loads of shorts now of Rishi just saying Hawk Tour, and they will be going out on the TikTok.
We should launch an SEO coin saying this has been sponsored by Google. Get Gary Illyes to be the face of it.
I think we should have NFTs featuring my face.
NFTs are dead. No one wants them. You're so old school, Jerry.
So
you're so 2023.
Cindy, can you save us?
I could talk about crypto at length, but you guys wouldn't like my opinions. So I think we should go back to SEO, where you also might not like my opinions.
I think what I find interesting though is like somehow we've been picked up by YouTube's algorithm because we've averaged 55 live viewers for like the past 40 minutes. Like they're clearly enjoying Hawk Coin talk.
They think we're selling a coin.
I literally said that, and we lost 10% immediately.
Do we wait? Was there was one more study we were going to talk about, but it was essentially a different perspective on the same thing, right? It was so we saw the SEMrush study with 200,000 AI overviews, and then there was another one from Seer. And I don't think that I haven't done a close side-by-side comparison, but I've kind of skimmed both and looked at the graphs and stuff like that. And I think they're both insightful, but not saying anything too particularly different, right?
The Seer one was talking about the click-through rate one.
Yeah, the Seer one was click-through rate.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've been seeing this on a lot of kind of what you might call the kind of the queries where I'd be like, that's really weird. The click-through rate on that is ridiculously low for, am I ranking? Oh no, I should be. There's a massive AI box basically above it. Like I mentioned before, that box which, you know, when I search for how to do schema for multiple products, you know, this is a technical thing, and Google gave me a full comprehensive answer with all the code without me ever leaving Google. And there's no reason for me to kind of ever leave Google's like search results for a lot of this stuff. Yes, it has links out to where the sources are and why it's important. But quite honestly, I'm not even going to even notice those. As a user, this is great. This is kind of what I want. As a content producer who wants to drive traffic to my website where I'm talking about maybe a particular topic, for instance, if I'm talking about SEO and I've written a great article on podcast marketing and Google's come along and ripped it all off and basically produced something which is a summary of it and taken the key points from it, nobody's going to visit my website. They're not going to learn about me and all my other kind of services and my brand and so on and so forth. So, you know, that social contract's lost. And I kind of feel like at some point this is an issue. And I do feel quite strongly about this issue. And I know that you were saying earlier on, if no one's writing something original, then, you know, there's no kind of point almost, or Google will just do it. But reality is that a lot of the time, you know, nobody is writing anything that original. I feel like, you know, what have we got left to say almost that can't be summarized? But at the same time,
why would
Go
you
on.
write anything? Why would you write anything if it's not original? Like this is when I've had,
Wow.
you know, people working with me, I usually tell them, like, there's not a point in writing if you're just going to write what everyone else is already saying. Just link to whoever said it right. Like,
Yeah, but that's
no,
most
I
of our
agree.
industry.
But I
Most of our
find
industry is copying each other.
huh?
So most of our industry is copying each other. I mean, even if it's just regurgitating contact forms, I remember. I think
Yeah,
it
but
was
that
the
doesn't mean
first.
it's good. Just because
Oh, no,
everyone's
but-
doing it doesn't mean it's a good idea.
But it's just what people fall over the echo chambers who post the big graphs on LinkedIn about context and see that as being the path to success and rinse repeating. It's an accountability loop as well, because there's too much, like, if you call certain people out, there's too many bandwagon who then jump on it and then take it off, and it's just almost not worth it.
that was certainly interesting when there were some studies done and people questioned the studies about correlation, causation, and all sorts of other things. And people, you know, if anybody kind of had a difference of opinion or questioned it, it was very much a case of, no, you can't question it because either, you know, you're personally attacking the author, and it's like, no, there was a genuine question about how you got these numbers, or alternatively, it's almost the exact opposite. It somehow becomes malicious, them versus us. And I feel like that's also an issue. And I've seen it too often where, you know, I've questioned something or somebody's questioned something and suddenly everyone's attacking them. And it's like, no, this is discussion. That's what Twitter used to be great for, but it's turned them versus us. And it's either personal or it's somehow divisive for various different reasons. It's fun, but also I do feel like, you know, it's tribal as well, which can really become dangerous.
So just to try to take this back to the SEER study, and I appreciate I'm the one who derailed it, so I take responsibility there. So the kind of key takeaways here: paid CTR decreased by just under 10% with an AI overview present, but increased by 21% with no present. Organic CTR declined
70%.
Yeah, 70% when an AOV was present in the SERP, but up to 2.9 with no present. Organic CTR increases to 1.08% when included as a source in AI overview, and down by just over 0.5% without. Was a bit to length, and there's also 31.6% of queries with AI overviews were questions, which.
But Dan, let's pause.
Yeah.
The numbers here are important. Like when there's an AI overview, organic click-through drops by 70%. When you're included in the AI overview, your click-through rate increases by what? 1%. Like,
yeah, 1.08%.
It doesn't feel equitable.
No. I'm reading.
Is anything Google does is equitable?
What?
Sorry,
Google never does anything equitable.
I mean, just the people who come out when I complain about AI overviews and people say, yeah, but you could get a link in the AI overview and that's great. It's okay, but it's not great.
I think Kevin Indig did a similar data piece on this, and I think he found that the click-through rate was even included in the AI overviews across the study he looked at. It was something like 0.6%, 0.6 ratio of what it would be if it was just a standard first position link.
Because you're getting more information in the AI overview. But it used to be with a featured snippet. If you got a featured snippet, you could expect like a 20% bump, as I recall. On CTR.
Roughly. I had a client that that had a featured snippet for 2,000 a month average search volume keyword, and commercially a very good relevant keyword for them. And they used to get across combined CTR at position 1. This is, mind you, right? They used to get a CTR because obviously we're not counting the paid ads. So paid ads used to take a lot of the space, but then the snippet used to give them some traffic back. So used to get about 40% of organic traffic, right? At position 1, which is great. Now AI overviews in that space, and then you got paid ads. You want to take a guess how much what the CTR is?
It's going to be ridiculously low because And this goes to even like why rank tracking is still seen as what it is as a metric, because position 1 10 years ago is pixels upon pixels away of what position 1 is now. And we almost need to be more, I don't want to say
1.07%.
Wow.
They dominate their niche by 1.07%.
Is it shoes for walking on pebbles?
No. It's a SaaS product.
Oh,
You know, Cindy, there actually are special shoes for walking on pebbles.
I
They're called
believe
flexi shoes.
you know way more about shoes than I ever would have expected.
It is terrifying when you work in SEO or digital marketing, just how much you learn about a very weird topic. I have memories of, like, you know, some of the projects that I've worked on where like a week later or 2 years later somebody says something and I'm like, actually, you know, I sound like a massive nerd, but I have an expert knowledge on.
And you're not a massive nerd, Jerry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just teasing.
Anyway, carry
Yeah.
on. But yeah, basically I do think though we're going to produce a lot less content going forwards if we don't get the revenue from it, or at least organic content or good organic content.
that's not necessarily a bad thing, because
I disagree.
okay.
The reason I say that is the fact that for years, and I mean for like 10 years, I've basically been the guy saying, you know, content's good, but it has to be good content. You know, I used to work for a company along with a guy called Martin who pumped out the worst mass-produced content, and like we're talking about huge amounts of scale of it, and we knew full well it wasn't going to work at a certain point, and it didn't. After a while, it just went boom, straight off the cliff. And we said, you know, we need to have good content. So SEO people actually started being the champions of good content. And it was surprising how often companies would be churning out bad content, and the SEO guy in the corner kind of going, no, nobody's going to search for it. Nobody's not going to rank. It's not going to do anything. It's actually bad. Please stop putting terrible content on a website.
This is where, Jerry, you're thinking now. This is where I kind of like disagree with people, because this you're thinking with your SEO hat on, right? I think with my full-rounded marketer's hat on. I've been telling my customers for well over 5 years, build your email list, build closed user group communities and networks, right? And you pump your content in those areas, and that content's going to work because they're going to be in those targeted niches and spaces. Build the content for LinkedIn and spread that out and drive those people into your area. So there's content's always going to have a place, and it's going to have a scale. You can do it at scale, but do it in the areas where the money is, right? Or where the users are. Don't think content is just for SEO. And literally, this is what the problem is. That we think about things from a Google first approach. I've never thought that. I always thought as, where is my traffic coming from? Where is my money coming from? Where are my customers? And if my battlefield is no longer Google SERPs, then my battlefield is somewhere else. I'm going to find that battlefield and fight the fight. And
you're right.
Like,
but I think,
there are SaaS products where these guys didn't have closed user groups for these SaaS products, right? I said, close that group community, knit that. So give them a forum, let them talk to each other. I don't care. Start building it. And actually, this is one of the most active areas of referrals, because these people then introduce other devs. Say, you know what, join this forum. You don't need to be part of this custom. You don't need to buy the tool. We can join the forum. There's loads of good conversations happening in this forum, right? Relevant. And we get loads of devs and people from other marketers niches joining. And then over time, they can become customers. So it's about, and it's all about content. But
you're
obviously not
right.
shitting content, but.
No, you're 100% right. But what I was going to kind of counter that with is the fact that still the organic traffic from good content would still make up a part of it. You know, I mean, I've just literally wrote something on content marketing for a friend, and it was basically, you know, create great content, and then use it on all of the different channels, make sure it's distributed out, it will work. Basically, the challenge for a lot of these companies is creating the good content to start with, and then basically using it appropriately through the different channels. As you say, you know, LinkedIn is great. I mean, Dan's got his weekly newsletter thing, and that works incredibly well. I read that at least once a year, and you know, lots of people
the most subscribers, to be honest. My analytics is awful on it.
No, I'm kidding. No, I read Dan's email every week, and you know, there is a lot of different ways in which, you know, people are building brands using great content in different places. The key in some ways is actually being able to produce great content, which involves actually having research material and all of those bits and pieces. But going back to the original point, crap content just doesn't do anything for your brand at all. It's no matter where you put it, it has to be adequate, and adequate is a much higher bar than it sounds.
I think this is where my point earlier was, where we kind of disagreed. I think there's a difference between producing good quality content and producing a lot of content, because the HubSpot example, which everyone has seen and everyone has shared an opinion on, I mean, under the sun, if they've got a Ahrefs or SEMrush account, a lot of the stuff which if you guys drill down into it, it's been the stuff over the years we've written topics on, of like, oh, we produce, I don't know, let's use Rishi's shoes example. So we sell shoes, we're experts in shoes, so we're going to start writing articles about socks. Then we're going to start writing articles about, I don't know, shoe cleaning, antibacterial products and stuff like that. We're going to segue out from the core topic and into surrounding topics. And then, oh, well, this person really wants to wear sports shoes for the gym, so we're going to talk about some gym stuff related to, I don't know, leg exercise and stuff like that. Yeah, because it's what our TAM, what our audience is also interested in. And that's where that suffering started to happen if you look into the actual data through third-party tools there. But there is a difference between that content high production level and high quality level. And I mean, I've missed a couple of weeks on my weekly newsletter in the past 2-3 months just because I've not had anything worthwhile to say, and I'm not wanting just to churn something out for the sake of a weekly. LinkedIn punishes you massively, by the way, if you ever do that. If you publish something on a Monday, just put something out, even if it's the things that you're not going to do it, because it kills you in its algorithm. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges going forward, because I think as an industry, we've sold number of articles, we've sold content deliverables as a commodity, and that's what people expect. They want, oh, well, if I'm paying this for content, how many pieces of content am I going to get? Rather than looking at it as, well, we're writing this content for this objective in mind and not to hit a KPI of production.
Yeah. It's a shame, but you know, it is what it is kind of situation. Let's be honest, Marketer would have not been bought by Adobe if it didn't have the amount of traffic it used to get and visibility that it had built that was competing with HubSpot. And that HubSpot content, people say great, not great. It is what it is. I mean, I'd rather have the content on my own site that can drive the traffic to my own site than point people to a third-party site, right? I mean, I had, when I was at an agency, we wrote a whole post on HTTP status codes that could have directed them to third-party sites or all over the place, or you know, the introduction toward keyword research and stuff. But I don't want my customers going to a third-party site to look at that information or the SEO site. Keep them in there and show them that we have subject matter expertise. So there's a reason for some of that volume basic content to exist on your own platforms, to retain the customer on your own platform. So it's also content not for the sake of SEO or for the sake of content, but actually there's a strategic direction for it.
And I think that's been lost, that actual, to your point with strategic direction. I think there's been an element of, let's look at the keyword, let's look at the search volume, a competitor's got about, or we arbitrarily put competitors into tools and go, well, they're getting 50,000 whatever traffics a month for this, but how much of it is actually relevant to what we do? And it's kind of just become a self-fulfilling flywheel of crap.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm very objective about that kind of stuff. I'm actually quite aggressive as well against my customers. One of my customers consistently, well, this site does so much more traffic. I'm like, yeah, but have you seen the keywords that they rank for? None of these are actually going to drive a single customer to your business, right? They're completely irrelevant. They're right. So this site has nothing to do with dev or SEO and writes about HTTP status codes and actually ranks for a whole number of them. I'm like, what is this? What is this going to drive?
Yeah.
I don't care. They can have 50x that traffic and I don't give a shit. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather you rank for 10 highly relevant keywords than ranking for 10,000 random rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote, did you see the HTTP status cats one on my thing? That's the one.
I
That's
love
the one that I pulled out.
status cats. My favorite thing ever. Right. I mean, to be honest with you, I slightly disagree. I think tangential content is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, if I'm talking about one thing and I can talk about topics around it, I don't think it's too bad. I do think that if you're going massively off topic, it doesn't necessarily promote your brand in that way. But I don't think tangential content, which is Andy Chadwick's kind of favorite phrase, he did a great talk about protection through certain types of anyway, I won't go into that one this one, but basically he had a great kind of talk about it in Bulgaria and it was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I think tangential content is good and it works really effectively and works well. You can get a lot of great traffic who then learn about your brand and engage with your brand. That's my feeling.
No, but I
Yeah,
think
absolutely. Look, there's tangential and then there's irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Say for example, you're a company that has a SaaS tool that offers SIM cards. Yeah. Your post on evaluating the life cycle of a SIM card is quite relevant, but also which phones use which different types of SIM cards, because actually now you can have up to four different sizes in SIM cards, right? That's quite relevant, right? But it's not on subject. But then you can also talk about the best phones to use for your SIM cards, right? Or whatever, right? Or the easiest phones to use. It's not a perfect example, but you know what I mean? You can have
No, I
that
get
sort
it.
of content, but on the other hand, you start talking about the best I don't know, hands like what do you call it, cases for your phones. It's tangential but not relevant.
Yep. And you know, I did buy Dan a phone case from AliExpress actually.
You should become an AliExpress affiliate.
Yeah, you really should, Jerry.
Or an importer, because if you can get AliExpress stuff here quicker, people will probably pay more for that than you will get for it. Anyway, I think on that note of Jerry's next career move, thank you to the 50 plus people who have stuck with us for the last nearly hour. It's probably our most watched live one yet, so it's greatly appreciated. Thank you for everyone who's
Because I was on it.
Did you put a link on Black Hat World? Is that right?
No.
They're all bad.
I'm banned from there. I'm banned from there.
You and me both. But no, thank you for everyone who's been engaging in the chat. Judith, Alicia, Stephen. I don't know if you're still there. I know you dropped in for a little bit. But yeah, thank you to everyone. We obviously, if you're watching this on the pre-recording, please do let us know in the comments your thoughts if you've got anything on this. And I guess we'll be live again in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you,
Cheers,
Rishi.
guys.
Goodbye, everyone.
Good to see you guys. Bye.
Bye.